Memo that came out in regards to the Nunes memo that we had before, released the memo. Well, the Democratic memo has been released. Mark Lauder is here right now from the RNC to talk about it. Set the table for us. What did we find out in this Democratic memo?
Well, not a lot, and thanks for having me on, Andy. What we saw is that they don't have any information that refutes the allegation from the original Republican memo that suggested that the federal government used political opposition research, and took it to a court in order to spy on an American citizen who was loosely affiliated with the opposing campaign. And it's really troubling for Americans out there to think that that a small portion, a very small group of folks at the highest levels of the FBI and the Justice Department misused their authority for partisan purposes.
Yeah, it is. It's increasingly scary to, it's almost as an American, I'm kind of hoping that something will come up and be like, no, this didn't actually go down this way. But everything that comes out continues to support this idea that there was some dirty political dirt, like you said, that we have surfaced, and then it was used in a federal court to try to spy on the opposing campaign. I mean, isn't the worst part of this whole situation that we now have confirmed in the Democratic memo, since they didn't refute it, that there's no disclosure of who paid for the Steele dossier in the first place?
Absolutely. They never informed the FISA court that this was paid for by the Democratic National Committee, by the Clinton campaign. It was led by someone who was quoted saying he was desperate to derail the president's candidacy, and none of that information made its way to the courts. And, the big takeaway to me about the Democrat memo, it reminds me of Seinfeld. It was a show about nothing.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we got out of this, except that here we go again, more information, continued information, nothing about collusion, which is what this was all supposedly about. It was all, every day we're finding out more and more about the levels of dirty tricks and political tricks that the FBI and the Justice Department at the highest levels engaged in trying to ensure a Clinton presidency.
We're speaking with Mark Lauder, RNC spokesperson. So we know what it didn't say. It didn't say that the FISA warrant was fully disclosed, how the information that was presented was given. It wasn't told that the Hillary Clinton funded it. But what did the Democratic memo tell us? What was their angle, the purpose of putting it out there?
I think it was really just to put more information and get the story back into the mainstream media narrative. It was really nothing more than just to give the excuse for those in the mainstream to just start talking about it again. But it was so weak that it didn't even come out until over the weekend, and then it was largely ignored. Mm-hmm. And even today, you're seeing many outlets right now, they're pretty much just dismissing it and saying it really didn't do anything to help the Democrats' cause. In some cases, they're saying it actually made the situation worse for them. But that's where they are right now. I mean, after more than a year of investigating and hundreds upon hundreds of hours of interviews and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of documents, we still have no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. What we do have is proof that the Democratic National Committee, Hillary Clinton, colluded not only with those in the Justice Department and potentially in the FBI, but with outside foreign operatives with ties to Russia, mm-hmm. trying to engage and meddle in that election.
Yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic for the country. So what next? So President Trump, again, he dodges all the bullets that are coming right at him, and he said time and time again that he didn't do it and he has nothing to hide. What's the next step for Mueller's investigation and Donald Trump?
I think they're going to continue to do the work that they've been tasked by the Justice Department to do. And we do need to. We've also got an Inspector General report, which is really where I think the true information is going to come out when it gets into the conduct of the FBI and specific people within the FBI and the Department of Justice and their connections to this dossier, their work behind the scenes, whether it was on the Hillary Clinton email scandal that later transitioned over to the Trump investigation. I think when those kinds of things come out, and that should be happening here, in the coming months, is what, we think, then that's where the information is going to come out. But in the meantime, the president, that's not what he's focused on. And I can tell you, they're focused right now on continuing to grow the economy, taking the war on terror to the terrorists. And right now, as the president held a meeting this morning with a number of the nation's governors, they're talking about ways to protect our schools and our children from would-be mad gunmen.
Yeah, it's a good priority to have. Last question for you. Let's just pretend that the Democrats and Mueller even had the same amount of evidence against President Trump that they have against the way that this was carried out with the Hillary campaign being involved in the Fusion GPS dossier, the way it got to the FISA court, and therefore a warrant was able to be issued to spy on the Trump campaign. To me, when you line up all of the evidence against Donald Trump and all of the evidence against the Democrats who were involved in this and potentially even the Hillary campaign, the evidence on their side is just piling up and piling up and piling up, and Trump is still in the clear. How long can the leftist media and the people like Adam Schiff keep up this ruse to keep the attention focused away from where the smoke seems to really be coming from?
Well, when it comes to Capitol Hill and some in the mainstream media, it's clear that their only hope is to keep the Democratic base riled up and try to keep them energized in the hopes of winning elections in 2018. They know they face an uphill climb with an improving economy, Americans feeling more confident about our country's direction, about the economy, about the very things that the president promised he would do. So look, we shouldn't fool ourselves. They will double down. They will try to do whatever they can to continue to keep liberals and progressives outraged and upset. Whether that's a faux outrage is remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. But as long as Republicans stay on the offense, as long as we're out there talking about the accomplishments under this president, more money in people's pocketbooks, things that Claire McCaskill voted against, the more that we are talking about our results versus their resistance, we're going to be okay, because I think the American people see through it.
Yeah. I agree with you. Well, Mark Lauder, thank you so much for your time over there at the RNC. We appreciate you and your efforts.
Thank you very much.